successful annual planning. And if you do that, then what you're going to do is you're going to find that you have put your business into, and your leadership team into, more of a proactive position rather than a reactive position. Although I know this year with COVID, many of us were pushed into a reactive position, but given that we had an annual plan, it helped us even to attack that on a little bit more proactive basis. But by doing successful annual planning, you'll just see that you and your team, certainly your leadership team, will be much more aligned on where you're taking your business and how you're going to get there. But as you communicate that annual plan to your employees, which is really key, and I strongly urge my clients to do that and to keep their employees updated. As you do that, then you will see that your entire team understands that vision and also their role in helping you execute that vision. So it just makes it easier to achieve if everybody understands their contributions that they can make towards achieving that vision. So alignment and also communication. But successful annual planning also gives you a chance to make sure that you have some strong action plans, both for the full 12 months, but also bring that into a 90-day cycle. Every 90 days, think about what you need to be doing now to achieve that 1 year annual set of annual goals and so forth. We'll talk about how to do that in a moment. Annual planning also gives you a chance to anticipate what issues might get in your way and how can you favorably address those issues. As well as annual planning gives you a time to strengthen team health. And in one of my charts that I'm going to share with you, you will understand why team health is so important. Strong team can really take your company forward with strength and sometimes beat the expectations that you had. But weak team health, especially on the leadership team, can really impede your progress and your potential to achieve that. So, and I'm seeing that there's a little bit of chat going on. So Pam, if you can possibly watch that and just let me know if there's anything that I need to be addressing, happy to do that. But I'll just be going through the slides if that's okay with you. Okay, great. Great, thank you. All right, so what are the 4 steps for successful planning? First of all, when you get into your meeting with your leadership team, take time to review how the past year was. Did you hit your financial targets for the year? And also, did you achieve your annual goals that you set, those priorities that you set that you wanted to achieve for the year? If you did, terrific. Take a look and think about what was it that we did that made us so successful, and what did we do that we can repeat this year to position us better for success again in this year. But if you miss the targets, also be very candid and have a very open, honest discussion about why did we miss those targets? What was it that got in our way? And what can we do to make sure that that doesn't happen again this year, or at least to minimize the potential for that to happen again this year? So that's the first step. After you've taken a look and really assessed last year, then before you start planning for this year, take some time to do a team health exercise. I cannot overemphasize how important team health is, because one of the underlying factors of strong team health that I'm going to talk about in a moment is trust. And so it's really important to put everybody in the leadership team that's in that planning session at ease and to feel like they can have those open, honest, candid dialogues without being criticized and without being condemned for some of their thoughts. So the trust factor is so high, and having some kind of a team health exercise in the very beginning of your planning process can really improve the potential for that trust factor being strengthened. And so those communications just being much more open and much more valuable to your team. Another key step in successful annual planning is to do a SWOT analysis. Even if you did it last year, do it again this year. Factors change because a SWOT analysis is looking at both internal and external factors that can affect your business and your potential to achieve your vision. And from that SWOT analysis, make a list of what are those issues that came out of that SWOT analysis that could either help you or hurt you along the way. And then the 4th step in successful annual planning is to take a look at that vision that you set, your long-term vision, and reassess if that's still on track, or if there's some tweaks that you may need to make for the long term, being like a 3-year or 10-year, whatever, 10-year individual target, but 3-year plan and so forth. But then also update your 1-year plan and come up with some good annual goals, some good financial metrics to help you move towards your 3-year plan and make sure that you're going to be able to achieve it. So that's what we want to do in successful annual planning. So let's assume that you've already done the assessment of how last year went, both financially and with your annual goals. And let's talk about team health and why I stressed a moment ago that it's so important. If you have not read the book by Patrick Lencioni titled The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, I'd really encourage you to get that and to read it and to have your leadership team read it. Because what he emphasizes is that the trust factor is absolutely key amongst your leadership team. If your team does not have trust amongst themselves, if they don't feel that they've got a high trust factor, then they're not going to enter into that healthy conflict that is so essential for a team to have. It's important to have healthy conflict so that you can get and understand everybody's different viewpoints. And when you do that, then the team will have buy-in on what you're asking them to commit to. Without healthy conflict, then your team is going to say, sure, we're with the program, but in reality, inside they're saying, not really bought into it. So you won't get that full 100% commitment without healthy conflict. And without commitment, the ability to have accountability is really compromised, because without buy-in, they're not going to feel all that accountable, and their commitment to you for that accountability is going to be less sincere and so forth. And as you know, as we all know, if people don't feel that they're accountable, the results that you end up with are not going to necessarily be what you want to strive to. And it all goes down to establishing that trust. And that's why some kind of a team health exercise is so important to have, and to even have at the very beginning of your annual planning process, so that everybody feels comfortable sharing their viewpoints and really having that open, honest discussion. So again, if you haven't read 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, I encourage you to do so. Build that trust in your team so that they feel comfortable sharing the good and the bad. And with that good and the bad comes the SWOT analysis. And this is where your team really needs to be candid and take a look at the internal factors as well as external factors that could help or hurt you moving your business forward. So I'm going to talk about what those factors might be in the next 2 slides. But again, internal factors, your strengths and your weaknesses. So what could really be helping you move forward that you need to capitalize on, and what weaknesses do you need to fix so that they don't continue to get in your way of moving the business forward. External factors are some that you really are in less position to control, but you just need to be aware of so that you can be prepared for them, even though I think none of us would say that we were prepared for a pandemic this year. But there are other external factors that you can anticipate and be in a better position if you plan for them to address the kind of impact that they may have on your business. So what are the opportunities that those external factors may present to your business, but also how might they threaten your potential to achieve your vision? So we'll talk about that. And then after you've done the SWOT analysis, take a look at those and create an issues list of what you need to really be focused on of all those things on the SWOT analysis. So strengths and weaknesses. What is it that you need to be thinking? Again, I said that strengths and weaknesses are the internal factors that may impact your business. So things such as your alignment on your vision. You as a leadership team, are you 100% in agreement with where you're taking your business and how you're going to get there? If you're not, you need to get on the same page right away, because if you're not on the same page, then what you're communicating to your respective teams is disjointed. And being disjointed will have an impact on whether or not you're going to be able to achieve your vision. So alignment on your vision is really key. Also, as you're putting together your plans, making sure that you're staying true to your core focus. And I always like to tell my clients there's 2 things that impact what your core focus is. First of all, why do you exist as an organization? I like to refer to Simon Sinek, always talks about what's your why, but why does your organization exist? And what are you really, really good at? And as you think about expansion opportunities for your business, if you always come back to your core focus and ask yourself, is that expansion opportunity aligned with our core focus? You will always protect your investment, because if it's aligned to your core focus, you'll have a better potential to get the return on that investment for that expansion. If it's not, you're probably going to throw a lot of money and put a lot of resources to it, and your chance of getting that return on that investment is not necessarily as strong. And in the meantime, you've taken resources and also funding away from your true core of your business. So as you're thinking about the strengths and weaknesses, think about whether or not you're staying truly aligned with your core focus, or if you need to get yourself back on track. Also, I always tell my clients, no matter how good your vision is, if you don't have the right team and the right structure, you're compromising your ability to achieve that vision. So ask yourself in this strength and weakness, do you have the right structure for your team? And do you have the right people? And not just the right people that support your core values, but the right people in the right seats where they're going to shine and be able to deliver the maximum potential for your business to move forward. Also, in the SWOTs, the strengths and weaknesses, have you identified what those key measurables are that you can look at every single week that tell you whether or not you're likely to hit your desired results? If not, that's probably a weakness, something that you need to start building. If it is, evaluate whether you're looking at the right measurables and or maybe you need to tweak those. And also consider your marketing. Is your marketing engine really helping you drive sales? Are your marketing materials really highlighting your value prop so that your sales team can get in the door and have those conversations, and so that it's supporting what your sales reps are trying to do? Or is that something that you need to improve upon and really tighten up a bit? And also, do you have good communications, not just amongst the leadership team, but out to the rest of your organization? And are you communicating with them well as updates are necessary to share with them to keep them updated on where the company's going, how you're doing, and also to let them know what you're expecting of them? So those are some different areas that you might want to assess when you're thinking about the internal factors, the strengths and weaknesses. And to the right, you see the EOS model. A lot of those issues align with the 6 key components of the EOS model. And as Gino Wickman, who created EOS, said, we're all dealing with so much when we're running our business. It's so complex. But as we get strong in each of these 6 key components, those issues that we're dealing with will fall into place. So that's why looking and really doing a good assessment of the internal factors that could impact your business is so important. Do that candidly and really be critical of yourself as you're going through that. As far as opportunities and threats, I mentioned those are the external factors. You're not necessarily going to be able to control them, but at least if you're aware of them, then you can identify what actions you can take to mitigate the risk of them hurting your business, or to even capitalize on that opportunity if it's something that presents your business, the opportunity to expand. So, like I said earlier and have said a couple times already, none of us knew about COVID. None of us could have anticipated COVID. But now going into 2021, we know that COVID is still going to be present to a bit. So what can we do to mitigate the risk of what impact COVID may continue to present itself, and to be ready for taking advantage of whenever we get out of this COVID situation, be ready to start getting back to a little bit more business as usual. But also, what are some key trends, regulatories, technology, cultural trends that could give us an opportunity or that might present a threat to our business? What are some market forces? Your customers have needs that change periodically, and especially their needs may change based on key trends in technology and so forth that change. So how do those intersect, and how can they either give you an opportunity or present a threat to you? And are there some new revenue models that you may need to consider? Also, industry forces. Is there a new competitor that's moved into the area that you didn't have to deal with in the past? Or maybe based on what technology is doing, some of your competition is jumping onto technology faster than you are. So do you need to catch up? Or is this your opportunity to jump ahead of them and such? And also some macroeconomic forces, global market conditions or capital markets. But the external factors are just as important to take a look at and have a very candid assessment of, as are the internal forces, so that you can consider how they present an opportunity for you or how they may negatively impact your business and present a threat to you. So after you've done that assessment, now you've got a list. Hopefully you have 4 different sheets from your flip charts that list everything that you identified under strengths and weaknesses for your internal assessment and opportunities and threats for your external assessment. And what you should do is evaluate those items for each of those quadrants and take a very candid look at those and say, all right, of all of these items, we can't possibly try to address every single one, but which are the ones that would give us the greatest potential to either move the business forward, or it could really have the biggest negative impact to our business. So which are the most critical ones for us to face and address? And then once you identify those, determine how you want to take some action. Do they become part of some of your annual goals? The way that you address to either capitalize on the strengths and opportunities or put together some kind of a safeguard against the weaknesses and threats. Do those become an annual goal? Or maybe do they become one of your quarterly priorities? Or maybe you just keep them on a list of issues that you want to continuously keep so that you know that at some point you need to work with your leadership team to determine how are you going to solve those issues. So do the SWOT analysis, take a look at everything that you've come up with on each of those charts, identify which are the items that you need to really focus on the most, and then determine how are you going to focus on those, in what method. So once you have done that, now it gives you a chance to go back and take a look at your long-term vision. This happens to be a document that I use with my clients. It's a 2-page document. It's a free tool that I can send to anyone that would like to have this, just to use it on your own, and happy to give me a call if you have any questions about it. But it's a tool on this side of the 2-page document. It's the vision side, where they have identified their core values to determine their culture and to help them determine who are the right people on their team. It's the core focus, as I mentioned a minute ago. Why do you exist as an organization? What are you really good at? Your 10-year target, it could be a 5, 10, 15-year target. And then your marketing strategy. But those items don't typically change year to year. But what does typically need to be updated in your annual planning session, especially based on how you've done that SWOT analysis, sometimes you may need to tweak your 3-year picture. So reset your financial targets, so they're 3 years from this date of doing your annual planning, but also take a look at the 5 to 15 characteristics that describe what your business looks like in the next 3 years, and determine if any of those need to be tweaked based on that SWOT analysis. The part of the Vision Traction Organizer that will change significantly each year is the traction side, because on the traction side, that's where you build out your 1-year plan. So going back to your 3-year picture and the financial targets that you set for that 3-year time frame, where do you need to be financially in the next 12 months from a revenue and a profit perspective? And I always ask my clients to have one measurable. So one of my clients is mail distribution, a digital marketing mail distribution firm. So their measurable is how many thousands of pieces they distribute each year. Another one of my clients, and I think, Chris, this might go to you. Another one of my clients is in the technology services. And so their measurable is their monthly revenue rate, monthly recurring revenue. So it depends on what your business is as to what you might want that measurable to be. But look at your 3-year plan for financials and determine where you need that to be in the next 12 months. And then also take a look at the SWOT analysis, take a look at your 3-year picture, take a look at the issues list that you've been keeping track of, and decide what are the 3 to 7 most important actions we need to complete by the end of the year. And those will be your annual goals. And I always like to say less is more. Give yourself a chance to achieve rather than to set the expectation so high that you can't possibly get everything done. But determine what are the most important 3 to 7 most important actions you need to complete in the next year. Those are your annual goals. But don't leave your annual planning session just with that 1-year plan decided and your 3-year picture updated. Make sure that you have a plan in place for the next 90 days, because you want to get yourself into a 90-day cycle. So every 90 days, you have a chance to set priorities and financial targets that improve your potential to hitting your 1-year financial targets and your 1-year annual goals. So think about, in 90 days from now, knowing what our 1-year financial targets are, what do we need to achieve from a financial perspective, revenue, profit, and measurable. But also take a look at your annual goals, take a look at the SWOT analysis, take a look at your issues list, and think about what are the 3 to 7 most important actions we need to complete in the next 90 days. And assign them to whomever on your leadership team has that area of responsibility. And then the last part of this Vision Traction Organizer just gives you a place to continue to list those issues, those long-term issues. So again, annual planning is recapping and doing the SWOT analysis and updating your 3-year picture, but bringing that into a 1-year action plan, as well as a 90-day action plan, and then subsequent 90-day action plans following that. So really, I always meet with my clients for 2 days. I would encourage you to, at a minimum, spend a full day with your leadership team, but I would really encourage you to think about 2 days, because you want to have time to, at a leisurely pace, do a good team health exercise to tear down those defensive walls and help everybody build what I like to call that vulnerable trust, so that you can get the healthy conflict that will drive commitment, that will also drive accountability and help you achieve your results. So take the time to do the team health exercise. You'll also be spending quite a bit of time in the SWOT analysis. If you only do a 1-day annual planning session, you may be compromising some of the time needed to do a thorough SWOT analysis. And I just would encourage you to give yourself that time to do a really thorough SWOT analysis. And from that SWOT analysis, as I already mentioned in the other slide, take a look and say, what are the most important items on those lists that we need to really focus on, and come up with some action plans, whether they become annual goals, quarterly priorities, or just stay on our issues list. Revisit and adjust your 3-year picture so that then you can come up with your 1-year plan, and then you can determine your priorities for the next 90 days, and just keep that list of issues ongoing. And the other thing that I would just like to say here is the other thing that my clients do that you can start very easily, even if you're not running EOS, is get into a cadence of having weekly meetings, same day, same time, with your leadership team, so that you can measure the progress on your annual goals and also on your quarterly priorities, and also on that scorecard that I hope you're keeping track of with those weekly key measurables, but also so that it gives you time to solve the short-term issues, those issues that are pressing you right now. Get them off the plate. Just don't have great discussions, actually solve them. And then once you have your annual plan, share it with your whole organization. Transparency creates buy-in from your organizations, from your employees, because the more they know about where you're taking the business and how you want to get there, then they can envision how they fit into that picture. And they can also envision what they need to be doing to help you achieve that vision. So I cannot overstate the importance of open communication and really sharing that with your entire team. So those are the 4 steps of successful annual planning. Just at this point, I'd like to open it up, and I don't know if there are any questions that came in the chat, Pam, that we might want to address at this point.
I had a quick one. The off-site planning, typically it's off-site. Do you have any because it's always better to get out of the office to do that. Any suggestions in this world that we're living in on how to do that, or how to get the environment of being somewhere else to
That's a tough one for us,
stimulate the conversation, so to speak?
Yes. If you can find some kind of a hotel that has a large enough conference room to let you set your tables up so you have the social distancing, I think that would be a good environment. Some of my clients have actually kind of used it as a retreat time to even get not just out of the office, but out of town. And they've just gone somewhere that they could still drive to, but it also gave them a little time for that, not just team health exercise during the session, but also some team building at night to do a dinner or something else. Right now in COVID time, that's a little bit more difficult, but I think that you may be able to find a hotel that has a conference room or one of their rooms that is large enough to social distance the tables. And I would imagine that hotels would be a little bit more flexible these days, given that they're at a pretty low occupancy rate. So you may be able to negotiate a larger room for a lesser price than what that room might typically cost. But if you can get everybody to be in person, that would be optimal. If they're not, Zoom does afford the opportunity to do that. It's just that then you have the extra factor of how do I keep their attention? So a few tips on that is just that if you need to have a Zoom session instead of an in-person, just tell everybody they have to have their video on. They cannot black out the video because, again, you want to keep everybody engaged. And take breaks frequently, and maybe even put some fun into the breaks. So this time we're going to break. When you come back, come with something that represents your favorite sport, or your favorite football team, or sports team, or something like that. But just get them into having a little bit of fun that lightens the thinking pressure and gives them some chance for creativity. Does that help? Great. Any other questions?
Maria, we don't have anything in chat, but if anyone else would like to just jump in.
And even if you don't have any questions, maybe if you have something that's worked really well for you in your annual planning, feel free to share it with everyone.
Maria.
Jackie?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? It's been a while since I've seen you.
I know, my gosh, your hair looks great, by the way. Because I've not seen you in so long. I was just curious on your VTO. You have, oh shoot, I wish it said like a 10-year target. Can you give me a couple examples of, usually in marketing planning, I feel as if we go, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, but 10 years. And I was just curious if you could.
Well, and actually that says 10 years, Jackie, but sometimes I tell my clients, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, 15 years. You decide what it was. This form says 10 years, but just some examples. Like one of my clients, they want to have 10% market share in 10 metro areas in 10 years. Another one wants to, they're an early learning childhood center. So they want to have pre-K through 3 in one of their centers by X day. So it was a 5-year plan instead of a 10-year. Others have used a revenue target, but, revenue target's okay, or a profit target's okay. But if you can get a little bit more creative, like the 10% market share in 10 metro areas in 10 years or something like that, it's a little bit more motivating and exciting to your team when you share this with the team as well. It just takes a little while sometimes to get there, but those are some examples of those long-term targets.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. As Jim Collins likes to say, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. Any other questions or ideas of what somebody's done?
So just a quick question here, and it breaks down that annual planning into those weekly meetings that you were talking through. So when you have your action steps in place, you're reviewing them on a weekly basis, working through to review the SWOT as well. I guess any good best practices for just kind of making sure the meetings are more beneficial. I find that sometimes when you're reviewing a weekly or a larger target on a weekly basis, the steps that you're reviewing can almost seem daunting. The fact that you haven't made much progress in 1 week, but over a month, over 6 months, something along those lines. Any best practices around there, Maria?
Yes, Tom. So I use the same agenda every week. So first of all, I even have a weekly meeting with my assistant as well, even though I'm just myself and my assistant. But especially as the teams get larger, this helps a lot. Spend the first 5 minutes just to have everybody share some good news before you get into the meat of the agenda. Just that way it helps everybody get their mind off of whatever fire they just left behind. And then spend the next 15 minutes just reporting progress with simply just an on track or an off track. So those quarterly priorities that you set for this week, for this quarter, are you on track or off track with the potential to complete them? And if it's off track, don't get into a big discussion then. Put it down into the issues list if they're off track. Same thing with your scorecard measurables. Go through each of those measurables. Did you hit them this week? Are they on track? Or did you miss them this week? They off track. Again, if you missed them, don't get into a discussion about them. Drop them down to the issues list. And then the third part of the reporting progress is just sharing some headlines, good news, bad news for your customers, for your employees. And any bad news, again, don't discuss it then, drop it down to the issues list. And I'll explain why I keep saying don't discuss then, drop it to the issues list. But the reporting the progress should just be a real quick on track, off track, good news, bad news. And then take another 5 minutes, because again, as you get into these weekly meetings, you're going to have some actions that come out of last week's meeting to get done based on how you solve some issues. So go through those actions and find out whether they were done or not. And hopefully most of them will have been done. But then after that, that should leave you with 60 minutes, because my clients, I tell them to meet for 90 minutes each week. And at first they always push back on me, and I just say, trust the process. You'll begin to love these meetings because you're going to find they're going to help you track progress, but also solve issues and become more proactive. And they all end up absolutely agreeing about that. But then it leaves you 60 minutes to solve those issues. So what I also say is, don't go through your issues list just in the sequence that they've been written down, but have the leadership team choose, all right, of everything on that issues list, things that you brought forward from last week or things that you added during the week, and then anything that was off track or bad news. Of those, what are the top 3 most important issues you need to solve first? And then go through and have a good discussion about, all right, what's the real root of this issue? And a good example I give, sales are off. Okay, that's good, sales are off, but why are sales off? Is it that your sales rep's underperforming? You have the wrong sales rep? Is it that maybe you really didn't tighten up your target market well enough, so your sales rep's calling on some companies that he or she shouldn't be and wasting some time? Or is it that your marketing is not communicating your value proposition well enough, so it's hard for your sales reps to even get their foot in the door? And now you've decided that it's really your marketing messaging is off track. Now you can start to discuss ways to fix that marketing issue. And then once everybody's had a chance to share their ideas, now you can all agree on, all right, so what is that solution? Which of those ideas are we going to say is the way to solve that issue? And then assign that to somebody and make sure that they know that they need to get it done in X time. And now you've solved those issues. Once you do that for the top 3 issues, then if you still have time in that 60 minutes, go to the next 3 that are most important for you to solve. So that as you're going through your issues list, you're really focusing on those that could have the biggest potential favorably or negatively to your business. So, and then just conclude, and in the conclude, just recap what to-dos came out of your issue solving, what actions came out of your issue solving. Also decide, are there any messages that we need to communicate out to the team or to a particular department? And then we always just like for the teams to rate themselves on how well they work together. So, but that drives consistency. If you have the same agenda, everybody knows what to expect. And it does, that flow helps you keep working through it so that you really get to the heart of the matter, which is solving issues to get them out of your way so you can take the company forward. Did that help, Tom?
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you. Other questions or ideas of what others have done to have a strong annual planning session? Again, I just, getting, Chris, going back to your point about the annual planning, even when as you start this, I mentioned the importance of going back every quarter and setting some quarterly priorities and also doing some issue solving during those quarters. I would even encourage you to try to get your team away from the office for that quarterly planning session. Because if you give yourself good time to do that quarterly planning, it can easily take a day. And we all know that when we're in the office, even if we have a sign on the conference room that says, please don't disturb, we're in a meeting, somebody's going to tap on that door and say, you know what? I just need you for 5 minutes. And then 30 minutes later, you come back and rejoin the meeting. So as you think about those quarterly meetings, which I hope that you will start to have as well, I would even encourage you to get off site for those. And just as I said on this slide, if anyone would like a copy of the Vision Traction Organizer, I'm happy to send you a free electronic copy that you can use. If anybody would like a book, Get a Grip, that was written by Mike Payton and Gina Wickman, that really talks about the EOS process and gives you insights to that too. I'm happy to send you a free copy of that. A little bit more detail. So just either email me or maybe enter into the chat, because I think, Pam, before we close out the meeting, we can save a file of everything in the chat and then have that available.
I will do that. And then also we have recorded the session as well. So if anyone would like to get a copy to listen again, if there was some questions you want to get clarified, we can do that as well. So Maria, thank you so much. Great information on a Monday morning. The timeliness of it is is just wonderful, giving us the opportunity to get our annual planning underway before the start of the new year. And again, thanks so much for everyone joining this morning. It was good to see you all, and have a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see you again soon, live as soon as we can, but at Zoom, it's still great to see your faces. So have a good day and a good week.
Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
everybody.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank
everyone.
you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Maria.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining.